Hello and thank you for watching another video from Ellensburg Amplifier Repair and Service. This video really goes out to Dave. Dave is the owner of this McIntosh MC440 that I have been working on bringing back to life for him. And I just, there's just a couple things that I want to go over with about this board and the way it's put together, and of course to show Dave that I do have a functional power supply again. Excuse me for all the cables that are floating around here. These are very interesting design amplifiers. You have to have your RCA ground common with your negative input voltage. So so it has to have a common ground. Your head unit has to have the common ground with the power coming in, which I'm not sure you can see, but right back here I do have a jumper going back to the front, grounding, basically bonding my RCA shields with my 12 volt input. This amplifier does have a pretty good startup current, so I am unable to start it with my 2 amp current limited supply, so I have to use my 10 amp current limited supply for this amplifier, which threw me off just for a little bit at the very beginning when I was initially testing this. I couldn't really get the power supply to start up when everything seemed normal. It just was going into a low voltage situation. So I got the 10 amp power supply hooked up to this, and I just want to show you real quick here that the progress is moving along quite well. I have to kind of be careful on how I have this set up because this is a very, very finicky power supply on this. But I do have the red light on. It's called, I think in the manual they call this a clipping light, the yellow LED, which is your power guard circuit. It's a very, it's a complicated circuit design that they did for this power guard. But just let me show you. You do have the scope there in the upper left hand corner of the screen, and this uses 2 separate independent power supplies. So I'm just going to show you that we do have gate drive on both power supplies. So there's gate drive for one half and gate drive for the other half. So that's one power supply there, and here's gate drive for the other power supply. So there's one side and then there's the other side. So I have gate drive on both power supplies on both sides, and you can see that I do have rail voltage 21 volts negative, and I do have rail voltage 22 volts positive. It's kind of hard for me to reach over on this side to show you. So there's our negative rail voltage for the other power supply. But the interesting part of this is I have 50 volts on the positive side for this power supply. This is something I'm still looking into. I do not believe I should be at 50 volts, so I'm digging into that. But the biggest thing is I've got the power supply back up and running. There's numerous solder issues on this board. All the pins from the RCA input jack here, all the pins were loose on the PCB, which again goes back to this amplifier is kind of like some of the pioneers where you have to have a common ground between your RCA shield and your negative battery terminal. So this intermittent problem here at the RCA inputs probably was the cause of the failure of this board. I have an input signal going in, and as you can see, I don't have input coming out. So I'm working on the output section of this. I think it's definitely in mute. And as you can see, I do have, so I have positive and negative voltage on channels, I think this is 5 and 6. So there's channel 5 with both sides are positive, which isn't right, and then channel 6 negative and positive. So it's channels 5 and 6 do have a problem. I do believe that's what's putting the amplifier into a mute situation, because it is muting my input signals. So here's your preamp section. It's completely shut down, so I don't have any input signal there. So the muting transistors is obviously on, pulling the input signal to ground. So that's just my quick update on this board, and what makes this board very challenging for all you viewers of the McIntosh MC440 is the board has no silkscreen identifiers on it. Top, bottom, it doesn't matter. There's no identification for these parts anywhere. But on the schematic, if you look at the schematic, you have designators for all your components on the schematic. Well, McIntosh, thank you for this, but where are my identifiers on the board? So to really narrow down the problem is I have to go through and follow each trace back through the preamp, going back through the muting circuit, and physically write next to the component number. So this is where it's going to take the most amount of time. I'm sure I can randomly replace parts. I'm safely going to assume that since I have a high voltage here, that my voltage amplifier here is faulty. I'm assuming that. I haven't verified that, but there's just not much to these boards. A lot of your controls are going through these voltage amplifiers. So that's where I'm at on this. I'll keep everyone updated. If you have any suggestions, if anybody has any suggestions about the McIntosh MC440, where I should be looking, and an easier way to trace these out since there's no component identifiers, please let me know. Do these have common problems? I'm not sure. I don't get enough of these in to know of any common issues. So it looks like one of the channels may have been shorted previously, or this loose RCA input caused overcurrent situations somewhere on this board. So let me know. Again, I do thank everyone for watching. If you like repair content, please like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below there, and I will get back to you just as soon as I can. Again, thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.